Peace! A tall, willowy woman was sighing into the microphone. This invention is a great new instrument of peace. It will protect us from the aggressive designs of selfish enemies. It will allow us to breathe freely and to learn to love our fellow man. She had a bony face with a mouth embittered at cocktail parties, and wore a flowing pale blue gown, suggesting the concert garment of a harpist. It may well be considered as that miracle which was thought impossible in history, the dream of the ages, the final synthesis of science and love. This passage is about celebrating a new weapon which is conceived by the collectivist government. In the novel uh, Atlas Shrugged by Ayn Rand. And this lady, who is speaking of peace and love and stuff like that, is just kind of worshipping. She's praising a new instrument of death with which the collectivists hope to control the upcoming strikes and attempts of evolution, because they know that people will at some point start to rebel against them. And the reason for that is they created a system, a rigged system based on the principle of looting. Like, we've got the power and we make the laws, and whatever we find valuable for the sake of mankind, for the sake of the nation, we do it. So it's a group of looters, bandits who govern by force. It's a government of brutes, and they know that there will be some attempts of changing the government. And this reminds me of real life governments like this, for instance, the government of Putin. Why dictators have those powerful armies? Hi, Real Eddie, what's up? They have those huge armies because they know that people will try to stand against them, and that's why they have these armies. Yeah. And this is pretty hypocritical. Like, this lady who speaks of peace, science, and love is praising a new instrument, which is a sonic device, meaning it destroys by voice. Oh, thank you for the 2 thumbs up, YouTube. Awesome. And that sounds interesting. Yes, Real Lady, this is Atlas Shrugged by Ayn Rand. And this passage shows the hypocrisy, how people, and thank you for the hearts, I appreciate that, Real Lady, probably that's you, thanks a lot. Now the next quote is from page 829. Is there an independent newspaper left in the country? An uncontrolled radio station, a private piece of property, for that matter, or a personal opinion? The tone of the voice was obvious now. It was the tone of a thug. A personal opinion is the one luxury that nobody can afford today. And this passage, it's the same event. I sub to you. Thank you, Real Lady. Thank you so much. I appreciate your subscription. So yeah, Dr. Stadler is the mind behind this new powerful weapon, and he was kind of lured into it. They used his findings, his theoretical findings, and he's like, no, I object. I did not sign up for that. I did not want this type of weapon to be created. But the other doctor, his colleague, Dr. Simon Pritchett, is just cornering him and saying that we scientists, and these are collectivist scientists, not independent ones, He says we scientists need this kind of weapon too, because if the government doesn't favor us, we will not be able to survive. And again, this is a collectivist narrative, you know. In the world of collectivism, right wing or left wing makes no difference. They think they have to use force and coercion because they have no other arguments, you know. And this passage, like, is there an independent newspaper left in the country? So they are after controlling the media, yeah? When you have dictators or wannabe dictators, they go after the press, they go after freedom, they want to silence the independent ones, they want to control everyone and shut down those who are uncontrollable, or at least denigrate them and make their voices matter less. Is that the Bible? No, Jessica, this is Ayn Rand's Atlas Shrugged, a best-selling novel. If you know the philosophy of objectivism, Ayn Rand, or you've heard of Atlas Shrugged, Objectivism, this is it. This novel was around for a few decades. It's about freedom, liberty, individualism, and about the harms of collectivism, any form of collectivism, right wing or left wing. So this is about collectivism versus individualism at its core. And this lady, she created her own philosophy, a very interesting woman actually. She was born in Tsarist Russia, and she was able to immigrate into the US when Stalin was controlling and oppressing a lot of peoples in the former Tsarist Russia, which then became the USSR. And she created her own name, her own philosophy, and her own fortune in the United States through productive work. So this is a beautiful example of the American dream. And she called herself, she said, I am American by choice. That's a very beautiful way to put things down or into the perspective. So yes, controlling the press, and then an uncontrolled radio station, a private piece of property for that matter, or a personal opinion. So collectivism wants to be everywhere. In collectivism, the government wants to control everything. In right-wing collectivism, like fascism or nationalism, it can be religious nationalism, Muslim nationalism in Muslim countries, and Christian nationalism in Christian countries. They want to be everywhere. And also in the left wing, like Marxism, socialism, communism, the state wants to own as much as possible, yeah? Normally. There are some, well, anarchism, but it depends on the style of anarchism. There are collectivist types of anarchism, but yeah, other than that, usually it's about control, a lot of control. Collectivists want to control us, and that's why they want to own a lot. They want their government to be big. In Nazi Germany, the government was huge, and the Nazi party and the men whom Hitler trusted appropriated and stole a lot of property and businesses. And like we know in the USSR, the government owned everything and so on. Okay, next, page 829. If they will believe, when so told, that an instrument of death is a tool of prosperity, would they not believe it if they were told that Robert Stadler is a traitor and an enemy of the state? Would you then rely on the fact that this is not true? Are you thinking of truth, Dr. Stadler? Questions of truth do not enter into social issues. Principles have no influence on public affairs. Reason has no power over human beings. Logic is impotent. Morality is superfluous. Do not answer me now, Dr. Stadler. You will answer me over the microphone. You're the next speaker. So Dr. Stadler is really cornered here. He was not even told that he should have delivered a speech. So this is complete surprise for him. Now, uh, some of the things he says here, like people believing, yes, and how it is easy for collectivists in a collectivist society to manipulate with the opinions of the people. And Ayn Rand, she lived in the USSR. She was a teenager when all of that horrible stuff, well, yeah, teenager, when all of that stuff happened. She was socially and sort of politically active in the USSR, so she saw a lot of this. For instance, there were some revolutionaries like Trotsky in the USSR who were celebrated. But then others, like Stalin, said, "Oh no, you guys were wrong. Trotsky is not a good son of the nation. He's a traitor." And the public opinion was manufactured in a way which denounced Trotsky and his pals. And there were others, like there's this famous photo of Stalin with a few other individuals, and one of them was Yezhov. Like he worked in the KGB, which was called differently back then. I think it was NKVD. People's Commissariat of Internal Affairs, I think, Народный комиссариат внутренних дел, if I'm not mistaken. And then they removed Yezhov, they photoshopped him in an interesting way, and both photos are in the archives. So this reminds me of also, who was the author? Was it Aldous Huxley? Orwell's 1984, about the approach to history, to the past. They were saying that whoever controls the past controls the future, and they were editing the past nonstop. And everybody, like all the dictators and collectivists, do that. Yeah, they want to control the past, control the narratives. They rename things. They claim that their neighbors should not exist, like Putin versus Ukraine, yes, claiming that Ukraine is not a real state, that it shouldn't exist, blah, blah, blah. And in Russian literature, like if you take a textbook from 2025 and one from 2015 or 2010, you will see huge differences. They are constantly editing also the past, you know. That's the ugliness of collectivism, right wing and left wing. Now, another quote. Looking off at the dark strip of the farm in the distance, Dr. Stadler knew that what he felt was terror, but he would not permit himself to know its nature. He, who had been able to study the particles and subparticles of cosmic space, would not permit himself to examine his feeling and to know that it was made of three parts. One part was terror of a vision that seemed to stand before his eyes, the vision of the inscription cut in his honor over the door of the Institute. To the fearless mind, to the inviolate truth. Another part was a plain, brute animal fear of physical destruction, a humiliating fear which, in the civilized world of his youth, he had not expected ever to experience. And the third was the terror of the knowledge that by betraying the first, one delivers oneself into the realm of the second. Ayn Rand, she goes very deep with her writings. She examines the psychology of her characters in a very profound and unique way. So I love this passage because she describes the feeling of the person, but she also identifies the reasons uh, that generate that feeling. You know, often we read in books, oh, this person felt like this, and then they don't go that extra level to identify, especially when it comes to mental things, you know. Often, when we read novels, we can understand that the conflict is about emotions, like people are in love, or there is jealousy, or they are trying to share something. There is fight over power, and again, it's emotion, yeah, desire to own, to control. But so this is involving emotions as well, but this involves a lot of mental processes as well, and this is what a lot of writers and novelists fail to describe. And Ayn Rand is doing it in a very beautiful way. Hi Lilith on Facebook. Thanks for joining. YouTube, thank you for the 4 thumbs up. I appreciate that. I encourage others to do the same. Thumbs up. And commentaries. Where are you guys joining me from? And also Facebook, likes and comments. Tell me if you know anything about Atlas Shrugged by Ayn Rand. Okay? And let's continue. And another quote for you guys. Page 888. Dagny. Everybody knows it. Everybody knows how train schedules have been run in the past 3 weeks, and why some districts and some shippers get transportation while others don't. What we're not supposed to do is say that we know it. We're supposed to pretend to believe that public welfare is the only reason for any decision, and that the public welfare of the city of New York requires the immediate delivery of a large quantity of grapefruit. He paused, then added, the Director of Unification is sole judge of the public welfare and has sole authority over the allocation of any motive power and rolling stock on any railroad anywhere in the United States. So in the novel, things unravel in the United States. Yeah, and this formulation, public welfare, collectivists love that. Yeah, for the sake of the nation, for the sake of the church, of the family, of the working class, of women, of LGBT folks, any group, right-wing group, left-wing group, whatever. Yeah, they love to speak about the public, and that public may involve more specific group like ethnic groups, religious groups, or it could involve like more kind of globalist groups like the working class, which can involve different ethnicities and religions. So it's right-wing collectivism and left-wing collectivism. What unites all the collectivists is the idea of public welfare and the idea that the group, the collective, has the upper hand, and individuals as well as corporations, companies need to serve the so-called public welfare. And the grapefruit part, like grapefruits actually are owned by one of the grapefruit business is owned by one of those collectivist business people in the novel, and that's why his grapefruits are being delivered, you know. So it's a form of crony capitalism, but they are not even capitalists, they are collectivists. So they also hate capitalism, and they speak of love, unity, society, and they push narratives like that. And this is why the economy is crumbling. This book is very rich. It has personal and individual dimensions. It also has economic and social and political dimensions. So when you read page by page, chapter after chapter, you see how collectivism cripples any economy and how it is destructive when favors are given for the sake of this social group or that social group, and how it destroys freedom and prosperity. Next, from page 839, Jim was going to pieces, she thought. The jerky impatience, the shrillness, the aura of panic were new. Crude outbreaks of a tone of ineffectual menace had replaced his pose of cautious smoothness. Um, I chose this passage again to demonstrate how Ayn Rand is using words and expressions to describe her characters. Jerky impatience. There is this neurotic quality that people often have, yes, and different people can experience it in different ways, yes. A lot of us have it in different forms, and how, the way Ayn Rand describes it, it's so on point, you know, so precise, so so revealing. And she does that in a very interesting way, in a very reasonable way. The choice of her adjectives and nouns, it's just, I appreciate it a lot, you know. Shrillness, the aura of panic were new. Yes, that aura of panic. And when you read, you see, you are able to depict the character like that, you know. When she writes, she allows you to travel into the world, the psychology, and into the being of her characters. And this is why I love her writing. It gives you this very unusual and beautiful trip into the psychological processes of her characters. Page 841. All right. At the end of the year, the pool board distributes the total gross income, and every individual railroad is paid not on the haphazard, old-fashioned basis of the number of trains run or the tonnage of freight carried, but on the basis of its needs, that is, the preservation of its track being its main need. Every individual railroad is paid according to the mileage of the track which it owns and maintains. This is yet another example of needs-based economy, where the society and the economy is engineered in such fashion where need comes first, not creativity, not values, but needs. I need this. I have lack of something, and therefore you need to give me funds or something else. So needs-based economy. That's very crippling. And what happens when needs-based economy is implemented? I can share with you the example of my country, the Republic of Armenia, which is like everywhere. It's the same. In the US, this problem also exists, right? When people get some support from the state, and they get used to that support, and they try to hide their income, they try not to earn too much so that they can still get that support. In the US, insurance is a big deal, like medical, Medicaid, etc. In Armenia, there is this word paros. It's like very modest sum of money, around I think $60 to $80. It could have changed. Maybe it rose a little bit. But what happens is in villages, people do not, some people who obtain that aid from the government, they do not buy cattle because they know that if they buy even one cow, they will not be getting that money. So there are stories of people intentionally killing their cattle so that they would qualify for that aid by the government, which is crude. But some people are parasitic. Yeah, they think that everybody owes them. The society owes them, the government owes them, and they just um, abuse the existing systems. So needs-based economy, when need is placed first, is breeding a special class of parasites who are interested in obtaining things and not producing. That's the bad thing about needs-based economy. Of course, it. I don't want to say that people should be left all alone. Um, However, in the philosophy of objectivism, um, help and support and what's the word? Uh, Benevolent actions like charity should be private. Like, if you want to support some people out of your pocket, that's fine. It's your money, your decision. But when everyone is forced to do that through taxes, that's unfair because some taxpayers don't want to spend their money like that. And the problem with government and government money, which is the money of the taxpayers, is that they inflate, they create a lot of infrastructure around everything. So, for instance, if you decide to help some social group in need, like mothers in need, yes, who raise their children alone, uh, like you do that, you make a fundraiser, you gather with a group of people, and you get the money and you distribute the money to the people in need, right? When the government does that, they create special agencies, boards, they hire teams, they hire a director, director's assistant, public relations representative, assistant of an assistant, driver, social workers. So they create huge infrastructures and they create huge expenses around these processes. So that's the bad thing about the government. They inflate things. They make it, big. They make big balloons, and then they create additional expense. Where, whereas in if it was um, taken care of privately, that balloon would not be inflated. Yeah, people would help people directly, and you wouldn't need to create those huge infrastructures and have dozens or hundreds of employees on the money of the taxpayers. And more people would be able to keep more money, their own money, yeah, instead of paying it to the government in the form of state, federal, or other forms of taxes. Next, page 844. Because everybody thought you had. You don't know what's been going on lately, but it's sort of uncanny. The country is full of rumors, all sorts of rumors, about everything, all of them dangerous. Disruptive, I mean. People seem to do nothing but whisper. They don't believe the newspapers. They don't believe the best speakers. They believe every vicious, scare-mongering piece of gossip that comes floating around. There's no confidence left, no faith, no order, no respect for authority. People people seem to be on the verge of panic. So this is Jim speaking, the president of Taggart Transcontinental. He's speaking to his sister Dagny, and so there's no confidence left, no faith, no order. And Jim is a collectivist. Ayn Rand describes different types of rich people, and some of them are bad rich people. There is this misconception. Some people think that objectivism is about supporting wealthy people, but it's not really the case. There are bad wealthy people as well in the novels of Ayn Rand. And Jim Taggart is one of those people. He abuses his power, he destroys the wealth of his grandfather, and he slowly destroys the company, the railroad he inherited. And they like faith, yeah, faith, discipline, order, like belief, yeah. Um, that narrative, and often when things go wrong, they believe, they blame it on the non-believers, the lack of faith. Like, if only everybody thought the way we did, yes, if only everybody shared our vision. And of course, that's childish, that's immature, but this is how collectivists operate. Both the socialists, like the left wing, and the right wing, whenever they fail, they blame others. Like Armenia, in Armenia we have a lot of conservative Christians, and in 2020 there was another war between Armenia and Azerbaijan. Armenia lost this war, and a lot of nationalists and collectivists blame people like myself, people who are not conservative, who are not religious. They're like, if everybody was like us, we would have won. And that's immature, because Armenia lost also in terms of technology, and Armenia lost two very well prepared armies of Azerbaijan, Turkey, and it made no difference if instead of 5,000 or 4,000 soldiers killed, we would have had 8,000 or 12,000 soldiers killed by those powerful Turkish Bayraktar rockets and other devices. But nationalists and collectivists, they don't want to hear about that. They blame the government. They blame everyone who does not share their vision. Similarly, when socialism and communism fail, socialists and communists blame others. Like, people are like, if only the entire planet was communist, the USSR would have survived, and communism would have been beautiful. That's BS, of course, because there were many, many communist countries across the planet, Latin America, Asia, some parts of Europe. But if something is bad in its core, quantity doesn't add up. If you have poison, even if instead of 1 gram of poison you use 1000 milligrams of poison in your salad, poison is still poison. And this is the beauty of objectivism. It's a very rational philosophy, and it follows the 4 laws of logic. And the first law of logic is A, or existence exists, the law of identity. So everything has very specific certain identity. Poison is poison, yeah? Collectivists, they hate it. They refuse it. They say, no, poison can be something healing as well. And they don't mean it in a creative way, where like you could use very small portion of snake poison to cure, yeah? They mean it in the crude way, where like they would suggest you to add a few milligrams of cyanide into your salad, yeah? Yeah. This is fascinating. I love these subjects. I can go on for hours, but I think I'll stop here for today. This should be enough. I still have a lot of quotes to make. I hope they will extend this book for me at the local library. I still have a few, maybe 3 dozen of quotes or less. Yeah, so subscribe, and I'll see you guys soon. Thanks for being with me. Thumbs up whenever you are watching and rewatching this video. Thank you.